Hey everyone, Sarah here. Rewind Justice brings you revenge stories that will blow your mind. If you're ready, hit subscribe and let's go.
The Christmas dinner table fell silent. 12 relatives stopped mid-conversation. My mother's hand trembled as she stared at her phone screen, her wine glass forgotten. "What is this?" she whispered. "My wedding," I said calmly. "Scroll through. There are 847 photos total. Feel free to take your time." I watched her swipe. Her face went from confused to pale to ashen. Dad leaned over her shoulder, his fork clattering to his plate. "That's Governor Richardson," he said, his voice strangled. "And, is that the CEO of Meridian Technologies? And the state attorney general?" "Keep scrolling," I suggested. "You'll find photos with 3 Fortune 500 CEOs, 2 senators, a Pulitzer Prize winner, and about 300 other people who apparently don't think I'm too damaged to love." My Aunt Karen, always the peacemaker, cleared her throat nervously. "Alex, sweetie, when did you get married?" 2 years ago. Beautiful ceremony at the Botanical Gardens. 400 guests. String quartet. 7-tier cake. Reception at the Metropolitan Club." I took a sip of water. "You would have known about it if you'd been invited." "We weren't invited to your wedding?" Mom's voice rose, drawing attention from the kids' table. "No," I said simply. "You weren't. And before you ask why, maybe we should discuss what you said to me 3 years ago. Remember? Right here at this table. Christmas dinner 2021. The silence was deafening. You told me I was too broken for love. That my issues made me unlovable. That I should accept being alone because no one would ever want someone with my baggage. I kept my voice even, conversational. So I made a decision that day. Anyone who believed I was unlovable didn't deserve to witness me being loved." The comment had been casual, almost offhand. We were discussing my cousin Emily's engagement when Mom turned to me. "Don't worry, Alex. Not everyone is meant for marriage. Some people are just too damaged." I'd frozen, my fork halfway to my mouth. "Excuse me. Your therapy, your anxiety, all those issues from your 20s. Men don't want to deal with that." She'd said it kindly, like she was being helpful. "It's better to accept it now than keep hoping." Dad had nodded. "Your mother's right. Focus on your career. At least you're successful professionally." I'd left that dinner early, driving home in a daze. Too damaged. Unlovable. Broken. The words had echoed in my head for days. But here's what they didn't know. I'd been in a relationship for 6 months. With Dr. James Morrison, a renowned cardiovascular surgeon I'd met at a medical technology conference where my firm was presenting. He was brilliant, compassionate, and absolutely fascinated by my mind. "You're the most remarkable person I've ever met," he told me on our 3rd date. "The way you think, the way you solve problems, you're extraordinary." When I told him what my parents had said, his response was immediate. "They're wrong. And they don't deserve to be part of our story." He proposed 4 months later. Private. Perfect. Just the 2 of us on a beach in Maui. And when we started planning the wedding, we made one decision very clearly. My parents wouldn't be there. Neither would any family member who'd witnessed that Christmas dinner and said nothing. "Who do you actually want at our wedding?" James had asked, spreading vendor proposals across our dining table. I'd thought carefully. People who've celebrated us from the beginning. People who see me as whole, not broken. People who've earned the right to witness our happiness. We built a guest list of 400 people. Colleagues from my consulting firm. James's medical network. Friends from graduate school. My mentor from MIT. The nonprofit board I served on. James's family who'd welcomed me with open arms. "Not one person from your family?" James's mother had asked gently. "Not even your grandmother?" Grandma Rose heard Mom call me damaged and nodded along, I said quietly. She agreed I should accept my limitations. "So no. Not even Grandma." James's mother had hugged me. "Then we're your family now. All of us." And they were. His parents treated me like a daughter. His sister became my closest confidant. His extended family embraced me completely. The wedding planning became a joy. No arguments about guest lists or seating charts. No passive-aggressive comments about my choices. No one telling me I was too difficult or too damaged or too much. Just love. Support. Celebration. We hired the best planners in the city. Spared no expense. The botanical gardens for the ceremony, glass conservatory filled with orchids and roses. The Metropolitan Club for the reception. Art Deco elegance, crystal chandeliers, live band. My dress was custom Vera Wang. James wore a bespoke Tom Ford tux. And the guest list? It read like a who's who of New York's professional elite. Governor Richardson, who'd worked with my firm on state infrastructure projects. Senator Williams, whose healthcare bill I'd consulted on. CEOs from 3 Fortune 500 companies who'd hired my firm. The dean of Columbia Medical School where James taught. Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Michelle Chin who'd profiled my work. 400 people who saw me as successful, capable, and entirely lovable. 0 family members. Any regrets? James had asked the night before the wedding. None, I'd said honestly. They chose to see me as broken. I'm choosing to be celebrated by people who see me as whole. The wedding was perfect. Absolutely perfect. I walked down the aisle to Pachelbel's Canon, my mentor Dr. Patricia Chin at my side. James's eyes were wet when he saw me. Our vows were personal and profound. The reception was legendary. Governor Richardson's toast made people cry. The band played until 2 a.m. The dancing, the laughter, the joy. It was everything I'd dreamed of. And my family had no idea it had even happened. For 2 years I maintained the separation carefully. I still attended major family holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter. But I came alone. When asked about my personal life I deflected. Still focusing on work, I'd say. That's probably for the best, Mom would reply, that pitying tone in her voice. Given everything. I'd smile and change the subject. Meanwhile James and I built a beautiful life. We bought a penthouse in Tribeca. Traveled extensively, Paris, Tokyo, Cape Town, Buenos Aires. We hosted dinner parties with fascinating people. I made partner at my firm. James was appointed chief of cardiothoracic surgery at Mount Sinai. We were featured in Forbes for our joint philanthropic work. We'd established a foundation funding mental health research and treatment. The article included photos from a gala where I wore an emerald gown and James looked stunning in black tie. My parents never saw it. They didn't follow my professional life closely enough. How's work? Dad would ask at holidays. Good, I'd reply. Never mentioning the promotion, the major clients, the industry awards. That's nice, dear, he'd say, already turning to ask my brother about his mid-level sales job. The invisibility was strategic. I was watching them reveal exactly who they were when they thought I was less than I was. And what they revealed was devastating. Every holiday brought new comments. New reminders of my supposed limitations. Your brother is bringing his girlfriend. Such a lovely girl. Subtext. Unlike you, he's lovable. We're so proud of Sarah's new house. Subtext. At least someone in the family has a normal life. It's okay to be alone, Alex. Some people prefer it. Subtext. You're too broken for anything else. I documented it all. Mental notes. Voice recordings on my phone. A journal of every dismissive comment, every pitying look, every reminder that they saw me as fundamentally unworthy of love. Why do you keep going to these dinners? James asked after a particularly brutal Thanksgiving. Because I'm building a case, I said. When I finally tell them the truth, I want them to understand exactly what they missed. Exactly what their assumptions cost them. The breaking point came at Christmas 2024. 3 years after the original too damaged comment. 2 years after my wedding. We were at Mom and Dad's house. The full family assembled. My brother and his girlfriend. My cousin Emily and her husband. Aunt Karen. Grandma Rose. Uncle Ted. The conversation turned, as it always did, to relationships and family milestones. Emily's pregnant. Aunt Karen announced. Due in June. Congratulations flooded the table. Toasts were made. Emily glowed. Then Mom turned to me. It's okay that you'll never experience this, Alex. You have your career. I set down my wine glass carefully. What makes you think I'll never experience it? Well, you're not in a relationship. And given your issues. My issues. I kept my voice pleasant, curious. You know, your anxiety. Your therapy. The fact that you're so difficult. She said it matter-of-factly, like it was common knowledge. You're too damaged for anyone to love. We've accepted that. You should too. The table went quiet. Everyone looked uncomfortable but said nothing. That's when I made my decision. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone. I have something to show you. I opened my photos and pulled up the wedding album. 87 carefully curated photos from the best day of my life. Mom, what's your email? Why? Just tell me. She recited it, confused. I typed quickly, then hit send. Check your phone. Her phone pinged. She opened the email and I watched her face change. The wedding album loaded. The title page. Dr. Alexandra Hayes and Dr. James Morrison, June 15, 2022. What is this? She whispered. My wedding. Scroll through. Her hands shook as she swiped. I'd organized the photos deliberately. First, me and the governor. Second, James and Senator Williams. Third, the venue spectacular and expensive. Fourth, me in my Vera Wang gown. Fifth, the 400 guests filling the Metropolitan Club. You got married? Dad's voice was strangled. 2 years ago. Beautiful ceremony. Even better reception. 400 guests. I took a sip of wine. 0 family members. We weren't invited? Grandma's voice was small. No. None of you were. I gestured to my phone, which Mom was still scrolling through. You'll see the guest list in those photos. Governor Richardson. Senator Williams. 3 Fortune 500 CEOs. The Dean of Columbia Medical School. The State Attorney General. A Pulitzer Prize winner. About 390 other people who don't think I'm too damaged for love. Mom's hand froze on a photo of James and me cutting our 7-tier cake. Who is he? Dr. James Morrison. Chief of Cardiothoracic Surgery at Mount Sinai. We've been together for 5 years, married for 2. I smiled. He thinks I'm extraordinary. Not damaged. Not broken. Extraordinary. The silence was absolute. Why weren't we invited? Aunt Karen asked quietly. Because you were all at that Christmas dinner 3 years ago. You all heard Mom call me too damaged for love. You all heard Dad say I should accept being alone. And not one of you said anything. Not one of you defended me. You just nodded along or stayed silent. I pulled out my phone again and played a voice recording. My own voice, shaky with hurt. Mental note, December 25, 2021. Mom said I'm too damaged for anyone to love. Dad agreed. Grandma nodded. Aunt Karen looked away. No one disagreed. No one said I was worthy of love. They've decided my trauma makes me unlovable. The recording clicked off. I kept records, I said conversationally. Every comment. Every dismissal. Every reminder that you saw me as broken. 3 years of documentation. So when this moment came, you couldn't deny what you'd said. What you'd believed about me. Emily was crying. My brother looked shocked. Grandma's face had crumpled. Alex, sweetie, we didn't mean. Mom started. Yes, you did. You absolutely meant it. You genuinely believed I was too damaged for love. So I made a decision. Anyone who believed that didn't deserve to see me being loved. Didn't deserve to witness my happiness. Didn't deserve to meet the man who thinks I'm the most remarkable person he's ever known. I stood up and pulled out one more photo. A recent one from the Forbes gala. James and me, stunning in formal wear with the caption, Doctors Alexandra and James Morrison, founders of the Morrison Hayes Foundation for Mental Health Research and Treatment. Their foundation has raised $12 million to fund innovative treatment programs and research. I placed the photo on the table. This is who I am. This is the life I've built. The marriage I have. The impact I'm making. And you missed all of it because you decided I was broken. We're sorry, Dad said, his voice rough. We were wrong. We were so wrong. You were completely wrong. And it cost you my wedding. Cost you 2 years of knowing your son-in-law. Cost you being part of our life. It cost you everything. Mom was openly crying now. Can we meet him? Can we apologize? Why should I let you? I asked simply. You had 5 years to see me clearly. 5 years to ask real questions about my life. 5 years to notice I was happy. But you were too invested in seeing me as broken to notice I was whole. My brother finally found his voice. Alex, this isn't fair. You deliberately hid your relationship. Did I? I turned to him. Or did you just never ask? I never lied. I just stopped volunteering information to people who'd already decided what my life looked like. You could have told us. Why? So you could pity my partner for being with someone damaged? So you could warn him about my issues? So you could undermine my happiness the way you've undermined my confidence for years. I pulled up more photos on my phone. Here's us in Paris last spring. Here's our Tribeca penthouse. 3 bedrooms, 2,000 square feet, worth $4.2 million. Here's us with James's family who actually think I'm wonderful. Here's the foundation gala. Here's me making partner at my firm. Here's James receiving the Physician of Excellence award. I showed them photo after photo. Evidence of a rich, full, successful, happy life. This is what you missed, I said. Not because I hid it, but because you never looked. You were too busy pitying me to see I didn't need your pity. Aunt Karen spoke up, her voice tentative. What can we do to fix this? I don't know if you can, I said honestly. The damage isn't just about missing the wedding. It's about 3 years of assumptions. 3 years of treating me like I was less than. 3 years of believing I was too broken to deserve love. We love you, Mom said desperately. Do you? Because love means seeing people clearly. You didn't see me at all. You saw your assumptions, your fears, your limited understanding of what wholeness looks like. I pulled out my coat. I need to leave. Don't go, Grandma pleaded. Please, Alex. We want to make this right. Then start by understanding what you did. Really understanding it. You didn't just miss a party. You missed witnessing your daughter being celebrated by 400 people who see her worth. You missed meeting a man who thinks she's extraordinary. You missed 2 years of her happiness. You missed everything because you couldn't see past your own biases. I walked to the door. Before leaving, I turned back. I'll send you the full wedding album, I said. All 847 photos. Look at every single one. See the celebration you weren't part of. See the people who showed up for me when you decided I wasn't worth showing up for. Really look at what you missed. When will we see you again? Dad asked, his voice breaking. I don't know. I need to talk to James. About whether we want people in our lives who spent years believing I was unlovable. About whether you've earned the right to know us. Please, Mom whispered. We'll do anything. Then prove it. Prove you can see me clearly. Prove you understand what you did. Prove you're capable of seeing me as whole. I left. The door closed behind me with a soft click. In the car I called James. How'd it go? He asked. I showed them the wedding photos. You should have seen their faces. Come home, he said gently. I made hot chocolate. We can talk through everything. Our penthouse was warm and welcoming. Christmas lights twinkled on our tree. James met me at the door with a hug. Tell me everything, he said. I did. The whole confrontation. Mom's face. That shock. The recordings I'd played. The photos I'd shown. Do you regret it? He asked. I thought carefully. No. They needed to see what their assumptions cost them. What believing I was broken cost them. What happens now? I don't know. Maybe they change. Maybe they don't. Either way, we're okay. He kissed my forehead. We're more than okay. We're happy. We're loved. We're exactly where we're supposed to be. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. I've looked at every photo. I see what we missed. I see how wrong we were. I see you being celebrated and loved and whole. I'm so sorry. We're all so sorry. Please give us a chance to do better. I showed James the text. What do you want to do? He asked. I want to think about it. They don't get immediate forgiveness just because they're sorry. They get forgiveness when they actually change. Fair enough. Another text. This one from Grandma Rose. You look so beautiful in your wedding dress. So happy. I'm ashamed we weren't there. Ashamed of what we believed about you. Can we talk soon? Then my brother. I never stood up for you. I should have. I'm sorry. Then Aunt Karen. I looked at all 847 photos. Every single one. You were surrounded by people who love you. I want to be one of those people. If you'll let me. The texts kept coming. Apologies. Regrets. Requests for another chance. They're all texting, I told James. That's a start, he said. Not a solution. But a start. I agreed to meet Mom and Dad for coffee. Neutral territory. 1 hour. They arrived looking older, tired. Mom's eyes were red. Dad's hands shook slightly. We've been in therapy, Mom said immediately. Individual and couples. Trying to understand how we became people who would call our daughter damaged. And? I asked. We projected our fears onto you, Dad said quietly. Your anxiety, your therapy, it scared us. We didn't understand it. So we decided it made you broken instead of doing the work to understand you were just human. We failed you, Mom added. For years. We made you feel unworthy when you were extraordinary. We made you hide your happiness because we couldn't celebrate you properly. I listened. Didn't interrupt. We looked at all 847 photos, Dad continued. We saw you being toasted by a governor, dancing with a senator, laughing with friends, looking at James like he hung the moon. We saw everything we missed. And we understand now, Mom said. You didn't exclude us to be cruel. You excluded us because we'd already excluded you. From believing in you. From seeing your worth. From celebrating who you actually are. Yes, I said simply. Can we meet him? Dad asked. Your husband, can we try to be part of your life? I considered them. Really looked at them. They seemed genuine. Broken by their own realizations. Humbled. Maybe, I said. But on conditions. Anything, Mom said quickly. You don't get to ask James to explain why he loves me. You don't get to reference my issues or my damage. You don't get to treat our marriage as surprising or unlikely. You treat us like any other couple. With respect and normalcy. Done, Dad said. And you work on yourselves. Keep going to therapy. Keep examining the biases that let you see me as broken. Keep proving you're capable of change. We will, Mom promised. And one more thing, I said. You apologized to James. For the years you would have spent doubting him if you'd known about us. For the assumption that anyone who loved me must be settling or mistaken. They both nodded, tears streaming. We'll do all of it, Dad said. Whatever it takes. I pulled out my phone and texted James. You free for dinner this weekend? Parents want to meet you. His response was immediate. I'm ready if you are. I looked at my parents. Saturday, 7 p.m. Our place. You'll meet James. You'll see our home. You'll start learning who we actually are. Thank you, Mom whispered. Thank you for giving us another chance. Don't thank me yet, I said. Earn it. Prove you can see me clearly. Prove you've changed. They arrived exactly on time, nervous and overdressed. I let them into our penthouse. This is beautiful, Mom breathed, taking in the floor-to-ceiling windows, the art collection, the elegant furniture. James emerged from the kitchen, stunning in a casual sweater and slacks. He extended his hand to Dad. Mr. Hayes. Mrs. Hayes. I'm James. It's nice to finally meet you. I watched my parents carefully. Watched them take in James's confidence, his warmth, his obvious success. Dr. Morrison, Dad said, shaking his hand. Thank you for agreeing to meet us. Please call me James. And Alex has told me you wanted to apologize. I appreciate that. We sat in the living room. James poured wine. The conversation started awkwardly but grew easier. James told them about his work. His research. His teaching. Mom and Dad asked questions. Real questions, genuinely interested. Then Mom took a breath. James, we need to say something to you. Okay. We spent years believing our daughter was too damaged for love. That her anxiety and her trauma made her broken. We were wrong. Completely, devastatingly wrong. And if we'd known about you earlier, we probably would have doubted you. Doubted why you'd choose her. We're ashamed of that. And we're sorry. James looked at me, then back at them. Alex isn't damaged. She's resilient. Her anxiety doesn't make her weak. It makes her empathetic. Her therapy doesn't make her broken. It makes her self-aware. She's the strongest, most remarkable person I've ever known. And I'm honored she chose me. Mom started crying. Dad's eyes were wet. That's what we should have seen, Dad said quietly. That's who she's always been. We just couldn't see past our own fears. The evening continued. Dinner James had cooked. More conversation. Stories about how we met. Our first date. The proposal. Carefully edited versions of our wedding planning. Can we see more photos? Mom asked. From the wedding? I pulled out the physical album. The beautiful leather-bound book our photographer had created. They looked at every page. Every photo. The ceremony. The reception. The guests. The details. It was perfect, Mom said. Touching a photo of me and James at the altar. Absolutely perfect, I agreed. Everyone who should have been there was there. The implied criticism landed. They nodded, accepting it. We can't get that day back, Dad said. But maybe we can be there for future days? Anniversaries? Holidays? Whatever you'll let us be part of. I looked at James. He squeezed my hand. Maybe, I said. If you keep doing the work. If you keep proving you see me clearly. If you show up as people who celebrate us instead of doubt us. We will, Mom promised. We absolutely will. They left around 10 p.m. Hugs that felt tentative but genuine. Promises to stay in touch. Gratitude for the chance. After they left, James and I stood at our window looking out at the city lights. Think they'll actually change? He asked. I don't know. But I gave them the chance. What they do with it is up to them. No regrets about showing them the photos? I thought about the past 2 weeks. The confrontation. The aftermath. The difficult conversations. The tentative rebuilding. No regrets, I said. They needed to see what their assumptions cost them. They needed to understand that calling me damaged had consequences. Mission accomplished, James said, pulling me close. Mission accomplished, I agreed. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Thank you for tonight. For letting us meet James. For giving us a glimpse of your beautiful life. We don't deserve your grace, but we're grateful for it. Love you. I showed James the text. Progress, he asked. Progress, I confirmed. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't fixed. But it was movement in the right direction. And maybe that was enough for now. Because the truth was, I didn't need them to complete my life. James and I had built something beautiful without their approval. We'd created a marriage, a home, a community that celebrated us exactly as we were. They'd missed the wedding. They'd missed 2 years of our happiness. They'd missed everything because they couldn't see past their biases. But I'd proven my point. I'd shown them exactly what their assumptions had cost them. 400 guests. 0 family members. The Forbes list elite celebrating a woman they'd called too damaged for love. And now my parents were beginning to understand. I was never broken. They just couldn't see me clearly. But I'd made sure they saw the evidence. All 847 photos of it. And that evidence would live with them forever. A reminder of what they'd missed. What they'd lost. And what they'd have to earn back. One dinner at a time. One changed assumption at a time. One step toward actually seeing me at a time. The journey wasn't over. But it had begun. And that was something.